Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. All right, I'm getting ready to travel to Taiwan for a conference. The conference is 2.5 weeks from now. But there's something else I want to do when I'm in Taiwan. I want to recalibrate some good eating habits again. Here in the United States culture is very hostile toward anybody who tries to eat healthier. I mean, are you going to be kicked out of your social circle? Are you going to lose your job for eating healthy? Probably not directly, but indirectly, there are so many headwinds that one faces, and I don't think there's a whole lot of awareness about this. A whole lot of headwinds that a lot of people face when they attempt to eat healthy. It's gotten better over the last few decades, but I think it's in some ways it's gotten worse since the reopening from the pandemic. The best way to explain this is by example of what happens when I don't have these barriers. When COVID first broke out in early 2020, I found that I was eating a whole lot better. Now, a lot of people used it as an opportunity to abuse their eating habits, but I actually found that if you were intentional about wanting to eat healthier, the pandemic was your opportunity of a lifetime. You didn't run into people who commented about your choice of food. You could eat when you were actually hungry. You could wait until you're hungry to eat. And unfortunately, the best example I can give is anytime I go to any sort of event where food either isn't allowed or is awkward to be eating at. So, for example, I found that my eating disorder ways kind of really, kind of regressed when I returned to the office. I found I have binge eating problems because I wasn't allowed to eat in the classroom. Now you might say, "What? You're not allowed to eat, and that causes binge eating problems?" Well, the problem is that it puts a pigeonhole in the day. Let's say I have to teach a class from 2 to 5 p.m., right? And it's 1:30, and I'm not hungry yet, right? And it puts me in a difficult position. I'm forced to eat when I'm not, when it's not in tune with my body. Now, if we were allowed to eat in the classroom, that would not be a problem, right? I think the real problem is that a lot of people are so, here in the United States, people eat in a very ostentatious way. They make a mess of themselves, and so it ruins it for everybody else who could eat more peacefully, right? So in a culture like Japan, Taiwan, I've gone to conferences in Japan where people will literally eat on the podium, and it doesn't seem to be a problem. Now, why is that? I think they're a lot more considerate with how they eat, right? In Japan, a lot of places still allow smoking indoors, but I think people are much more considerate about how to do that. It would never work. It would never work here in the United States because so many people would ruin it for everybody else, right? Just try telling somebody not to smoke somewhere and see how that goes, right? And but I think that those people really ruin it for everybody else. Now, another problem, I personally think it should be illegal for any place to disallow eating, whether it be eating altogether or outside food, unless there's a really good health reason for it, right? So, for example, certainly, I talk about eating in the classroom. Certainly, if you're working with chemistry, yeah, don't eat in the lab, right? But in a classroom about computer science, why not, right? Or various activities. I get into so many headaches with places that don't allow you to bring outside food. I had a big problem with trying to go to a convention in downtown Phoenix one time, and granted, the convention's only 4 hours. Why do you need to eat there? Well, again, it's a pigeonhole, right? I want to eat when my body says I should eat, right? And so I explained to the people at the front that I had a disability, and they asked me, "What's your disability?" I'm like, "I don't want to talk about it. I'm sorry. I'm going to bring the food inside." And they said, "Sir." And one of the guards gave up. And said, "Don't, just let it go." And I got into the convention, but I was in such a bad mood that it really I couldn't stay there. And so things like that really put a they create a barrier for people who actually want to do well with their bodies. Now, does it affect you? Sure, it does. So every time you pay your Medicare bill, right, you can thank people like the idiot at the convention center for contributing to that bill. Right. All right. Anyway, we don't have a substrate that allows for healthy lifestyle, right? Our substrate puts a big headwind toward anybody trying to follow a healthy lifestyle, and it puts a tailwind to anybody who abuses themselves because there's a lot of support when you actually get something wrong. Let me ask you a question. What do you think it's easier to take time off of work for? When you actually get sick with a heart attack, type 2 diabetes, or when you want to make an adjustment to your lifestyle and want to take some time to reflect on it? Which one do you think is easier to call off for? And is it right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.